You're listening to Apashish, a Cree learning podcast.
Most of the people at these conferences that go there are also trying to find answers because they all have the same concern. How do we save our language? There are communities, like, say, in Southern Ontario and other places, where there are no speakers at all anymore. They have none. And they're trying to figure out how do we get the language back. And Moose Cree is at risk because it's a unique dialect, L-dialect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so important for me, the work that I do, to try and save it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Apashish, a Cree learning podcast. Ajay Gashay Bisum. Okwawa Bisum. Mawachi. Itagayak Piponene. Bisum Waknasta. Ate Gashay Piponek. Mina Peago Mina. Gayate Ushkeaskewak. Basically, what I said there is Ashay Gashay Bisum, which means it's now the Great Moon, which is the term we have for February. And the Cree following that I took from that diagram I described in the last episode of the seasons and the months. It's been developed by Mushkegowuk Education, and it's written in syllabics, which I had to transcribe or transpose into Roman orthography, standard Roman orthography, or SRO, because that's what I'm more familiar with. And in the diagram, right under the syllabics, this is what I presume to be the English translation. The final and mightiest of winter moons blows its last breath upon the land, completing the seasonal cycle. So that's the description for Gashay Bisum, the Great Moon. And if I were to try to break this down, it's a bit difficult. I don't know some of the words. I wasn't able to find a few of them in these dictionaries. For example, Okwawa Bisum Mawachi. So I know the word Bisum refers to the moon. The next part goes, Dahayak Bepone Bisumwak. So Dahayak, I think, refers to the cold because Dahayal means it's cold. So there's some conjugation happening with this word. Dahayak. And Bepone refers to the winter. And there's this extra syllable at the end. Bepone. Bepon is just winter. And then Bisumwak. So Bisum means the moon. And wak is a suffix implying a plural. So moons. So cold winter moons. Neshta eate. Neshta means like and also. Ate refers to like the beginning, to begin. Geshe beponak. So great winter. Mina pero mina. Again, once again. So mina means again. Pero means like once. Ge ate. Ushke eskawak. So ushke means like new. Eskawak. Eske means land or earth. And again, we have the suffix implying it's a plural. So new land. Again, once again, begins new land. So I guess that's how we would describe the seasonal cycle. So if you're a Cree speaker, if you can, send us a message or something to explain this translation, that would be great. But that's my interpretation just based on my current knowledge of Cree. So I don't know how well I did, but yeah, if you know what exactly it means, please let me know. But that's the final and mightiest of winter moons blows its last breath upon the land, completing the seasonal cycle. Apparently that's what it means. And Valentine's Day just passed, and we made a post with some Cree words related to that. Sagahewel means love. Kasagitan means I love you. And there's a few other words associated with that that we didn't include in their social media post. So, onapemama apparently means husband. Wiwama is the word for wife. Wigamagan is the word for spouse or a common law. And Owichawagano is to have a companion or a partner. So I don't have any of those. I'm single. So I spent my Valentine's Day going to the Mushkegowuk Cup, which is the regional First Nations youth hockey tournament hosted by Mushkegowuk Council here in Timmins. There were 45 teams from the James Bay region, including Moose Cree, Moose Cree, Cache, Fort Albany, Attawapskat, and Tagamo, plus some non-Mushkegowuk communities sent teams, including Constance Lake, Wigwamakong, which is from Manitoulin Island, and Lac Simon from Quebec. So I went to see my niece's son and daughter play for Fort Albany for the U7 and the U9. So it was exciting to watch the games and to see the goals and the saves and the close calls and to be in the crowd and to be with the other family members and, cheering them on and gasping. And yeah, and I also ran into people I knew, like from my childhood in Moosonee or people I went to high school with. It's really great to see all the community come together and to support the kids because I know how important that is for their confidence and growth. Because I used to play minor hockey when I was a kid, and I used to love going to tournaments, and it was just so exciting and to see everyone come together and to have that, personal development and to celebrate our youth in sports. It was a nice change to watch hockey for me because it hasn't been a great month since the last episode because I lost two people in my life late last month. So Edmund Etherington is the son of Patrick Etherington of Moose Cree First Nation. And I didn't know Edmund that well when I was growing up, but I knew his brother, Pat Jr. We went to school together back in Moosonee. And during I Don't Know More and Teresa Spence's fasting and hunger strike in Ottawa during that time, Edmund Etherington was a helper in that camp. And I would say he was like the lead helper. Maybe he wouldn't say that, or I don't know if there's a title, but yeah, he was making sure that the camp was running smoothly and addressing issues, and also, of course, the firekeeping and the ceremonies and the protocols because he was very experienced with that. And I went to the camp when I was working with Huawate and got to know him, and I even stayed at the camp, and he taught me a lot, and we even marched together to Parliament Hill during one of those rallies, and it was a very special time. Like whatever your politics are about what happened that time, like to be in that camp was definitely something special and life changing. And Edmund was a big part of that for me. And over the years we started to lose touch, and he moved out west, and yeah, and then I got the news that he had passed away, and his brother Pat had passed away a couple of years ago. So it was tough to hear that, and just made me reflect on those times that we had together, and my condolences to his father Patrick and the rest of his family. Um, but yeah, and then not long after I got that news, um, I heard one of my close friends passed away. Her name is Grace Winter, and she's a member of Kingfisher Lake First Nation in northwestern Ontario, and she had family connections to Kitchener-Megisub in Innuit. also known as Big Trout Lake, also in northwestern Ontario. And we worked together at Wawate. She was a graphic designer. And she founded the Seven Youth Media Network, which is a platform for youth in Northern Ontario communities to express themselves, because she was always passionate about helping the youth and helping their communities. And she also worked at NAN, Anishinaabe Nation, for the past, 10 years or so. And yeah, during our time at Wawata, we became close friends. And she's one of the funniest people I know. And yeah, she was definitely one of my best friends. And she just passed away unexpectedly. And so she was living in Thunder Bay at the time. So I attended the viewing for Edmund here in Timmins at the funeral home. And right after that, I literally got into my vehicle and hit the highway and made my way to Thunder Bay for my friend Grace. And they had a sacred fire going, so I attended that and attended the service there. And yeah, it was just a tough week and a tough month. And it's been challenging, and I feel like a lot of people in our communities have been losing people. Like, I remember when I told my mom about my friend Grace passing, and she said a lot of people are leaving us, and I feel like that's a big sentiment here in Northern Ontario in our communities, that we're losing a lot of people, and it's really sad. And you know, I really don't know what else to say except. In preparing to talk about this, I thought, well, let me look up a word. So I'll teach you this word. Mamashime natamahil. Mamashime natamahil. That means to grieve. But yeah, it's been a tough month. With the language learning part, I haven't done a whole lot. Like, I haven't been doing the flashcards. I just kind of, like, for a couple of weeks at least, like, just shut down and didn't do anything what you would call productive. Just took some time for myself. And it's only in the recent week or so that I've started to kind of get back on the things like this podcast. And, I even considered postponing this episode, especially with like the fact that I haven't been learning much. But I thought, you know what, that's just what happens sometimes in life, where life throws you some hurdles. And sometimes we have these goals and these plans, but life will just throw things your way, and that's just part of the journey that I'm on, with both just life in general and also this specifically this learning journey. And in a way, maybe it's a good thing that that I'm taking a break from it, because it's given me some time to reflect on where I'm at. Because to be honest, with the whole flashcards, I was starting to feel a little overwhelmed with it. If you recall, I was reading the book Fluent Forever, where he suggested that you learn 625 words, and these certain words that make up about 75% of most languages. And if you learn these words, you get a pretty good state of fluency in your learning. And I was trying to go through this word list, writing it out in Cree and going through this flashcard system. And it was a lot, like, to make the flashcards and then to review them every day. It was taking more time than I was expecting, and it was starting to feel like a big chore, to be honest. When I started the whole flashcard thing, I'd only read to the part in the book where he's talking about the 625 words, and that's when I started working on the flashcards. So I started reading again that book, and it continues on. Like, actually, in the past, I would say learn the 625 words first, but now I would say learn 200 words and then start to make sentences and learn the grammar to create those sentences based on those words. So I totally missed that part of it. So I was so focused on learning these 625 words that I didn't think about how I can try to apply it. But so maybe it is a good thing that, you know, that I took a break from this learning. So it just made me realize that I don't have a good grasp in terms of the grammatical rules and how to conjugate the verbs and things like that. So last week I picked up the Dictionary of Moose Cree. It's the fourth edition, which was just released back in December. It's more than 1,300 pages, and apparently it's the largest single dialect Cree dictionary to date. There's a Cree in English section, which has 34,000 Cree entries. And what's interesting is that they're all arranged in order by syllabics as opposed to the English alphabet. So, e, I, U, A, which I guess would be considered the first set of syllabics. So it starts with and all the Cree words that start with are listed there, and then I, U, A, then pe, pi, pupa, and te, ti, ti, so, and so on. So that was pretty interesting. And there's an English and Cree section, which has 5,500 entries with these variations of the Cree word under those definitions. And there is also a verb conjugation table, which will be very helpful again as I want to go about learning the grammatical rules for Cree. So that takes me to my guest interview, who is actually the project lead for the Moose Cree Dictionary. My guest this month is Geraldine Govender. Geraldine is a member of Moose Cree First Nation and resides in Moose Factory. Graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in Native Studies from Trent University, Geraldine moved back to Moose Factory in 1980. She was instrumental in generating an interest and revival of the Cree cultural and traditional spirituality among young adults and youth, and has helped to bring ceremonies to Moose Factory and workshops that recognize the role of our elders and cultural knowledge that they hold. Geraldine is currently the Director of Language and Cultural Programs at Moose Cree First Nation and is working in language revitalization. And she's the project lead, as I mentioned, for the Moose Cree Dictionary. Stay tuned for after the interview, where I'll discuss the fact that we're halfway in this podcast and Cree learning project. And I'll share some reflections and seek your feedback for the next half of this podcast project, which is supposed to be 12 episodes, and we're now on episode 6. So stay tuned for that. Here's my conversation with Geraldine Govender. Hey, Wachia Geraldine, thanks so much for joining me here. So do you want to start off with an introduction? Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Moose Factory, born and raised here. I moved away for a while, going to school, and lived away for a bit, but I've been back here since 1980, and I've been working at Moose Cree First Nation for it'll be going on 20 years this May, and I've been working in language revitalization. So I basically was working here by myself for about 17 years, I think, till I was able to hire a couple of staff to come on. But I do work with the elders in the community, the fluent speakers.
Oh, great. And when were you born?
July 17th, 53.
Oh, okay.
So I've been around a while.
Same year as my late
I'm
dad.
still working.
Okay. And you said you were born in Moose Factory. Was that like in the hospital there?
Yeah, yeah. So my family are Ludits. That was my maiden name. So we're Ludits from Moose Factory, and we have relatives all up the coast as well, from Inaruapscut, mostly, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I had relatives in Cache as well. Our family was, my grandmother was a Wesley from Old Fort Albany, when that's where my dad was born.
Yeah.
The old post.
And who are your parents?
My parents are Jane and Alec Ludit.
Okay.
I live here in Moose Factory. I have 7 sisters, 2 brothers.
Wow. Big family.
Yeah, yeah, fun stuff.
And did your parents do any work? Like, did they have jobs or anything?
My dad worked all the time. He worked in different things. Like he worked at the Outer Rapids Dam. So when I was small, that's where he was working. And then he mostly worked in like custodial kind of jobs, but he worked all the time. So my mom worked at home. She worked quite hard at home, raising 10 kids. And, she did a lot of things like hides and doing tanning hides and that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
she was always very busy.
And what was it like growing up for you in Moose Factory back then?
Well, it was much smaller for sure around here. And I lived like on what is called Veterans Road. So I was like one of the children of war veterans. So there was a few families like that lived on Veterans Road in Moose Factory. So we basically grew up in that whole area. So yeah, so we always had a lot of friends. I used to go in the summertime up to well, it's called North Bluff, I guess, further north of here. And we would go picking berries. So we would go. I would go with my mom, my aunt, and my grandfather, and they would go for the whole summer. We'd go get strawberries and that kind of thing. So that's what I remember about being young. And also, we used to speak Cree all the time, and stopped. Like I think we kind of like stopped speaking Cree after a while when we started going into school. Because my experience, what I understand is that we all spoke Cree when we were kids, and then we started speaking English as we went into a school. And I think I remember someone telling me that like people were, our parents, or especially our dads, were told by the Indian agent or whoever was here, like Moose Factory was like kind of the center of a lot of things in James Bay. So there was the Indian agent here. There was the hospital. There was the RCMP had their detachment here, and of course there's the Hudson Bay Company that I guess used to be called Factors, that had a lot of influence on on our people here. And Moose Factory is one of the, I think it's the second oldest or the oldest English speaking settlement in Ontario. So we've had that influence for over 350 years now. So in some ways, that I think has been a factor in our language starting to be at risk, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of influence here, but we also have, we still have a really, I believe it's a really beautiful language, very unique. The L-dialect. I guess you know about it, right?
Right, right.
And then, and the only other place where you have the L where you can hear it is in Cash, but they do a mix. They have a mix of the N and the L. One of the things I find interesting is like we have people. We've always kind of depended on people that speak the N dialect to write, things for us like in syllabics and stuff. Apparently, they were just changing mostly the L, all the N's to L's, making it saying, well, that's Moose Cree. But it wasn't like that because we have N's, a lot of N's in our dialect as well.
Right.
So there was a lot of I guess errors that happened along the way
Mm-hmm.
where people thought we just change all the N's to L and then that makes it Moose Cree. That's not true. So I think the earlier works that were done by translators were probably not correct. And that's the state of our language that most of us didn't read syllabics anyway, so we wouldn't have even picked up the error there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but we're doing something now where we're going to focus on writing in syllabics now.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to be we're going to be launching a language platform on March the 4th.
Yeah.
It's going to be a soft launch. We've been working on this for a while now, so it'll. We have decided that we are going to our writing system is going to be syllabics. So the first few modules are going to teach syllabics. So we're starting to feature that more as a system of writing. we have, you see, if we look at some of our dictionaries that we've done, we've been using the standard Roman orthography,
Yeah.
SRO, I guess it's called. Um, and so I've gotten used to that. I can read it. I find it easy for me to read it. But one of the things that I find challenging is how people just write however it sounds to them phonetically.
Right.
Like there's a lot of that kind of writing that people do. So we've been trying to standardize things so that when you look up something in our dictionary, and if you use the right consonants and the markings and the vowels, that you'll be able to find it in the dictionary. I make a point at times when I talk about it that you're not going to have certain consonants in the dictionary. So there's not going to be any D's, G, J. So people like to write jishtek. You're
Yeah.
not going to be able to use that J on there, right?
Right. Right.
So it's actually, but you'll find the word, but it's actually shortened.
Hmm.
It's called jishtek. You'll find it
Right.
in the dictionary, but it's not going to be. So there's no J, there's no B, those kind of things. So, but people are still like hanging on to writing, and phonetically. So it'll be a bit of a challenge to not just go to SRO, but to actually go to syllabics.
Hmm.
But syllabics is, I think, the most correct way, I think, to write Cree or to pronounce Cree as well.
You mentioned that you grew up speaking Cree, and then when you went to school, your family switched to speaking English. Were you able to retain the language over that time, or did you have to relearn it later?
I've always understood it, but then didn't feel confident to speak it.
Hmm.
I still sometimes struggle with that. So, even though I've been involved in language revitalization, I would say I'd understand it, say maybe 95% or maybe even higher. But to speak it, I think it just takes a little more to feel comfortable, I guess, to speak Cree.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think in certain settings, like in language immersion, then I feel more at ease to do that. Certainly in ceremonies, you hear the language praying in Cree.
Hmm.
I can pray in Cree, and Creator understands me. Maybe make mistakes, but He understands me.
And you mentioned that you grew up on what's called Veterans Road because of, and that's for families where they had family members that served. One of your family members that served?
Well, my father was a war veteran.
Oh,
So that Alex Ludet was one of the war veterans, and then my mother's first husband is James Chum. He was also a war veteran. So my family is both Ludets and Chums. So we both so there's two war veterans in our family.
wow.
My father and my siblings' father.
Hmm.
14, I think we had 14 that lived in that area,
Hmm.
in that street. It's called Veterans Road, I think.
Right. And so they served overseas during like World War II and that, or
Yes, yes, and I think there's a couple that were in World War I. So
and did they ever did you ever hear any stories from them?
they didn't really talk much. I don't recall like the war veterans really talking about their experience. What happened to them. Maybe once in a while you heard that they mentioned that they'd been in this one battle and was just pretty bad, pretty difficult to talk about. And
Hmm.
so they never really talked about that experience. 'Cause they lost people as well, and they're right in the front lines, some of them.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine.
So it was like a lot of trauma, I guess. So they didn't really talk about it.
Hmm. And where did you go to high school?
Okay, because there's no high school here in this factory, we all had to leave. So I went to school first time in grade 9. I went to school in Ottawa, and then I went 3 years, I switched over to North Bay. So I went to Chippewa in North Bay, and then back then, they had the grade 13. So I did my grade 13 in Toronto, and then I went to Trent University for about a year, and then I took a break from that and went back about a few years later. That was like 19. I graduated out of there in 1980, out of Trent, and then I ended up moving back here, and I worked in the NADAP program. That was the very first time they had a NADAP program here.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working in I guess, in more social and addictions and fields like that, jobs.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing the language and culture.
What was it like for you to go to post-secondary during that time? Like, did it feel like, did you see a lot of like other Native people there, or did you feel like alone, or what was that like for you?
I think in North Bay it was North Bay. There were a lot of us that were there. Like there were lots from Moose Factory, and then there were some from the coast. But I think mostly they went to Timmins, Kirkland Lake, and there were a lot of students from Wiki, Wemacong, and Manitoulin Island that went to school there as well. So I saw a lot more at that time. But at the time when I was in class, I was like in my in the academic, I guess, the 5 year academic stream. So I was kind of like the only Native student in my class. I think we experienced a lot of loneliness and racism in North Bay when we were there. So it took me a while just to get over that feeling, when you first go back into North Bay, for example, that first feeling that brought back, like how I used to feel when I was there. But I go there a lot now, and I've gone past that, I think, and just have my family there. But yeah, Ottawa was lonely. I went through three boarding homes within the first 3 months when I was there. And I was very lucky in my last one that I ended up with a family that was they were just really wonderful people, and that had made it so that I could finish my year there and stay in school. I was always a high academic achiever. I was always right through school, first first in class. So,
Oh, wow.
but I kind of like lost it for a bit there in Ottawa because I was just not really wanting to try, because it was just the loneliness, the homesickness that a lot of people went through. So. And Toronto was fine, like the grade 13 was fine. I was staying with my sister,
Oh, okay.
so that was okay. That experience, yeah.
And same thing in university?
University was good. I think I went there in 1972. That was when some the Native Studies program was pretty new still. It had been going for a few years, maybe 5 years or so. So there weren't a lot of us Native students that were going to school at Trent at that time. So yeah, it was good.
And then you mentioned after graduation that you went back to Moose Factory.
Yeah,
So what made you want to go back?
I've always wanted. I was like living in his factory.
Mm-hmm.
Even going to high school and stuff like that. I always wanted to go home. Like there were like in whenever there was an opportunity to go home, like I would just take that opportunity. I even gave up opportunities to travel other places because I would rather be home. I didn't go to school trips to Rome, to Morocco, Germany, that were all offered to me because this factory was the place I wanted to be.
Oh, well.
So I came home. I always like living here, and I still always like living here.
And you mentioned ceremonies, and you also, uh, go to powwows. So was that part, the cultural part, was that always a big part of your life?
No, I guess I wouldn't say it was a big part of my life as earlier because I just really, I guess, rediscovered things. and when I was going to university. Yeah, first time I went to ceremony. First time like to a sweat lodge, and first time I learned about the medicine wheel. Those teachings was in university, and coming back to Moose Factory, like they were just starting to have, you know, the the drum there. So I was like, I came back here, and I guess I was one of the people that brought all that back here.
Oh, wow.
So when I came back, my friend Emily Ferris, Dr. Emily Ferris, and I did the Indian Days. That we started the Indian Days that we had up the river and up the French River. That was in 1981. So we did that for a few years. I guess we were like the coordinators, but we, had a lot of help from other people. Like it was all volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we started bringing those ceremonies, those teachings back, and the drum. That's where people started, like Otterhead was the drum group back then. They were all from here. So, and then because of my work, I guess in the department, and I was also following all the traditional ways. I think I was part of bringing all that back as well.
So that wasn't like a big part of the community back then when you were growing up?
No, no. I think when I mentioned I was a NADAP worker, there had never been a NADAP program here, and back in the '60s, it was pretty crazy. Deadly. The drinking, that kind of thing that was happening. I guess it was happening everywhere, but because you know that when Native people weren't allowed to drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until the 1960s.
Right.
I think there was a case, I think it was called the Dry Bones case, of all things, but which allowed Native people just to start to be able to have alcohol. So, so people, I think I grew up in that time, which is pretty wild, like in 1960s, being a little girl when a lot of people were drinking all the time. Not all the time, but on the weekends.
Right.
Like during the week was fine and everything. Is weekends that would be kind of wild. I think people just didn't. It was something new. Anyway, when I came back here in 1980 and was a meetup worker, it was a different time. There was still a lot of that happening, and there was a few people that had stopped drinking, and these people were going to the Cree Gospel Chapel in Mustanti. It was a Baptist church, which really helped.
Mm-hmm.
It really helped them, to be able to maintain that, because it was difficult, to when everyone else is partying, to be able to stop. And I know when I came back, there were like two guys who were attending Alcoholics Anonymous A. They started an AA group, and they were the only two. Then I come along, and I don't fit into any of those categories, so I'm like the traditional person. So that's how it was, I guess, seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it was different, and so that was part of the thing. This no one was really following that at the time,
Right.
or certainly not out in the open. So we started to bring that understanding and that those teachings. We brought in elders from everywhere at the time. So we brought in people from different parts of the country, Emily and I, through the Indian Days. But we also brought in our own elders from the both coasts. So we had people like our elders from Albany, Adamska, Cash, Pewanak, Skagnish. So these are some of the people, like there was like Marius Spence from Port Albany, and John Matness, and Raphael Wabano, Michael Patrick, James Wesley, James Carpenter. A lot of them, and from the Quebec side, George Diamond, I think it's Ronnie Cowboy. there were a number of them that we brought in, and we had them um, talking about like the our culture and showing some things as well, like how to do different kinds of, I guess what I would call cultural. They had a lot of cultural and traditional knowledge, so we really honored that as well. That our elders had that to offer. Most of them were Christians,
Yeah.
but they were open to sit with the traditional ones that we brought in from different places. Like Alex Skeed was one of the ones from Kenora area, Red Portage, very well-known Ojibwe elder. And there was Art Solomon. Then we had the Small Legs from the Blackfoot. There were a number of them. And eventually, Indian Days didn't. We stopped doing Indian Days, and eventually, people started doing mostly just ceremonies and ceremonial camps. So that's when we started to have the Ochis, Peter Ochis, those that Sweetgrass Road teachings that came this way,
Mm-hmm.
came back actually.
Oh, amazing. I think I went to one of those like in the 90s. Were you still doing that in the 90s, the Indian days?
I think 1989, I think might
Oh,
have been the last
oh,
time
okay.
we did, but then we started doing fasting ceremonies, those kind of,
Oh,
yeah. And then others, there were other groups that did other, like sun dances here, but mostly like what I've been involved in is with fasting.
mhm. Oh, amazing.
And end around dances that we do as well. We do the memorial round dances. So we follow. I follow what we call the Sweetgrass Road, those teachings.
Hmm.
So we do it those ways. We follow those protocols, and we are trying to keep true to those, to do them and the way they've always been done.
Hmm.
Oh no, we're not talking about language here.
Yeah, no, no. This is really fascinating. I'm sure all
Okay.
listeners too are interested to hear your story. And I don't know, you're such a sounds like an integral part of bringing some of these traditions back to his factory. So you mentioned that after you came back, most of your career has been in social work, but from my understanding, in 2006, that's when you started working for Moose Cree First Nation and working within language and culture. How did that come about?
Well, at that time, the chief at that time, I was saying that we need to do something about the language, and so that's how they found the funds through what used to be Casino Rama money, which is now called OFNLP. So they found money there to hire to post the position. So that's all that was there was the salary dollars and also just a little bit. No, I couldn't. No, there wasn't even money like to be able to pay rent or do any that kind of stuff. It was pretty lean, It was pretty lean time. But Moose Cree at that time, and still does really did believe that the language is important. So they put our own money into it to keep it going. I was told that I needed to find money elsewhere after the first year to look for money to keep the language program going. And I did try, but there was nothing out there, nothing that would cover salaries, day to day kind of costs, right? But there were some places where you could apply where they'd have requests or proposals, like RFPs would come out but they were all short term projects and they didn't pay for like salaries and that kind of thing. So I applied for funds for those kinds of stuff, but there was never anything that would be ongoing. Like you did like a project that like to try and do a program, which is like a pilot project at the time, and there wasn't really funds to have you continue it on, right? They kind of give you something to try out, and then you have to always compete for the money. So I was really lucky that I was able to go back to Moose Cree and tell them, there's no money out there to do language programming. And I really believe that that's why we don't have language programs in the communities, because there's no place to apply for funds to do that. And And it just happened that Moose Cree First Nation decided that it was important to do, and they've funded it since through our own funding now, like because we have our own resource revenue sharing kind of agreements. So that money is what is called self-generated funds. So that's is used to pay for this department to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've been doing good work, I think that they see that it's important to do, so they continue to fund it, and I get that support. So otherwise, it would not be here because there's just no way you could find money out there to pay for language and culture. And yeah, all communities should have been able to do. It would have been nice if there was funds to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've just finished a survey, actually. I think it was from AFN and about language. And I keep saying that every time somebody asks me. I tell them all the communities should be able to have this because all our languages are at risk now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Moose Cree is really at risk because we already know. I was saying that we have very few speakers, and but we're in the other communities, the people that I talk to, where the language seems really strong. They're also saying too they're getting worried because the young people are not speaking it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Although they may understand it, they understand it, but they're just choosing not to speak it now. So there's that's what I've been told by the elders and by other people when we talk about language. It's like that in Quebec and up north in our communities up north.
Mm-hmm.
There's less. There's starting to be not speak. So there's concern. We're worried that we got to do something. Is what people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Where with us, had lost already lots.
Yeah.
But now we're working on this revitalization. So I've been working with our elders. We're very lucky. We have our lexicographer linguist who is Dr. Kevin Brousseau.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin has approached me, I don't know, years ago because he must have been studying linguistics at the time, and he studied Moose Cree like through all the missionary, like the Bible, those kind of writings that were there.
Right.
So he already had an interest in Moose Cree. So he contacted me and asked if we could do a dictionary project. And at that time, I told him we had no money, had no money at all to be able to do that. And Kevin is himself Cree. He's from Waswanipi, Quebec.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So he also is one that had relearned his language, and he was in linguistics. So he started when we got into some revenue sharing agreements, mostly through the Mushkegowuk agreement at the hydro dams,
Mm-hmm.
that project. That's where funding was there for cultural. There were some cultural dollars that were there, and I was very happy that my working group at the time thought that let's spend it on let's put money towards the language, and that's when we started the dictionary project, and I was able to have Kevin do the work on the dictionaries with our elders. So we have four editions now that we've done. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a copy, right? You got a copy in the.
I do. Yeah. It's right. It's right here. It's.
It's like we can say that's like the biggest Cree dictionary, and it is the largest Cree dictionary in the world.
Yeah.
I like saying that because I can say it, and I know it's true.
Yeah.
But it's also really amazing. I think what's the work that's happened in there.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think the first edition you had 6,000 entries, and this latest one now has like 34,000 or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, it's quite a growth. So, how do you go about developing the dictionary in the first place? Like, what was that process like to develop the first one?
Well, the big thing was that having someone like who knows linguistics, like Kevin was I don't even know if anybody else could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but Kevin was really instrumental in all this. So he worked with the elders. So if you look on, I don't know which. I'm looking at the old, this other one. This one is our third. So it lists all the contributors there, and you can see that I think there was about 17 or so of the people who were involved with the who he interviewed, who he got words from or verified different terms from,
Mm-hmm.
and out of those, I believe there we have seven, I believe, that are still with us.
Mm-hmm.
So all throughout that time, as elders pass away, then you lose a big part of our language speakers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we did it. He would call them, or he would. Yeah, there was a team of let's say about four. I guess over the years, as people passed away, then our team got smaller and smaller. So in the last on this last edition, there's only like the two that were involved to the most, I guess, would have been my aunt Hilda Jeffries and Susan Chichu. And the other one that was involved right up to he passed away a couple years now, Bill Ludit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And before that, we had George Quetchman and Eva Lastras. So they were all part of the a big part of, like, because Kevin would call them a lot, to ask them, how do you say this? And then he always verified those terms, that they were actual Moose Cree terms.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of research that he did in there. So we, yes, how do we do it? That's how we did it. I basically just managed, make sure we had the funds to pay for things and paid, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Make sure it happened. So I take no credit in in those, 'cause it comes from the elders. It comes from Kevin. And there's another man. His name is John Bishop, who does a lot of the layout. Learning, like, just I can't imagine what it would take to do the whole layout and how you do the design of the whole dictionary.
Right.
You do it alphabetically. You can see that in our fourth dictionary, that it's all syllabics, right? And it's all alphabetical based on the syllabic chart. A, E, U, A.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that. Yeah, so it starts with like yeah, A, E, U, A, Pe, Pi, Pupa, and so on. So it's organized in that fashion as opposed to
Yeah.
usually you would think about the English alphabet, A to Z. So how did that decision come about?
Well, you know what? I wasn't really thinking too much about it at the time when Kevin asked me. He had two different versions.
Mm-hmm.
How we had the third one, which was based on the alphabetical SRO.
Mm-hmm.
So the head word would have been starting with A, right?
Right.
And it went alphabetically. And then he was talking about the syllabics, because I think the whole thing is seeing that syllabics is the best way to write and to read, pronounce Cree. And it's a bit. I know it's going to be challenging to think differently, because we're also conditioned to think alphabetically.
Right.
A, B, C, D. Even like I was just telling you about how people still write phonetically, like they still will stay with that, right?
Yeah.
Like A, B, C, D. Like they're going to write a dim, they'll write probably UDIM,
Right.
a dim, how it sounds. Well, we're not going to have any U's in our dictionary. We're not going to have the D. So it's going to be spelled ATIM. Now, when you look for that, it's going to be, you're going to have to know the syllabic part. And even I was looking for something in the dictionary, and I thought it was going to be near the front, and it's actually more towards the end, like the adim,
Yeah.
somewhere like further on. So it is challenging. I think it's just really going to challenge us to think differently, think Cree.
Yeah, because I've spoken in the past about how that that's another challenge about trying to learn Cree. Like, oh, you got to learn the Slavics. For me, because I grew up learning that in Cree class. I grew up in Busini, right? And so I prefer at this point the Roman orthography, but I can see the argument for the syllabics for sure. And so I have to relearn that myself, especially now that I have the dictionary and I see how it's organized. It's like, okay, I gotta relearn that for sure.
Yes, even like people struggling with SRO, trying to deal with that part of it, the Roman orthography, right? Going away from the phonetic way of how it sounded. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and the thing is, the neat thing about this language platform that we're just going to be launching,
Hmm.
it's going to be on March the 4th.
Oh.
And so we've been working with this company that's been using AI. So AI to learn the language, but at the same time to create like avatars and um, make it interactive. So all this is happening all in the background. And remember, I was saying that I don't do a lot of this work myself. I just manage it.
Hmm.
I find the funds. I make sure things happen. But I've been really involved in this language learning platform, this app that we've been working on for a couple of years now. So I've been working on the grammar side of it, of the lessons. So we've got 60 modules that are in this platform now. They go from the first part is the syllabics is what is the first lessons. I'm just grabbing my thing here. So the first lessons are how to do syllabics.
Hmm.
So that's what it's going to do. So people are going to learn how to read and write syllabics, first few modules.
Right.
And then we go into some grammar. So I'm not sure. Are you a fluent speaker?
Wala. Appreciate ko na nanimun.
Okay.
Yeah, I've yeah, that's what this podcast is about. Of me trying to learn Cree. So
Why I asked that was because like a fluent speaker, they speak the language. They don't think about grammar. They don't have to think about how is the sentence constructed? What is it? Is this like a verb? Is this an inanimate verb? Is this a conjunct? Is it whatever? Like this is grammar, right?
yeah.
They don't. They just know how to do it. They don't even have to think about it. So they know. That's how fluent speakers speak.
Right.
So now I think when we're doing the relearning our language here, we're going to have to learn some grammar. I think grammar is going to be one way.
Hmm.
That's not the only way, but it's going to be one way to relearn the language, to understand how it works. Um, of course, the other ones are going to be like speaking and having conversations in the language with speakers. And we'll do those in more in language immersion kind of settings.
Hmm.
Where how people learned, like when I was learning to speak Cree. So we heard it in the house, right? We heard people talking. You're doing different things. You're playing around, and there are people. You hear that everyone's speaking Cree, and that's how you get it. You are immersed in the language at that time. And now we don't. If we don't have speakers, a lot of speakers, and if that's not being heard in the home all the time, then the kids are not, or even adults are not picking up. So we kind of have to now create an immersion setting, like a place where the language is being spoken and you're immersed in the language and you're hearing it. It's kind of have to create like an artificial kind of setting, I guess, if you want to call it that,
Hmm.
because we don't have it in the home now. So,
Right.
so that's part of the thing, which makes it challenging too to learn the language because if you don't hear it all the time,
Yeah.
yeah, which is what we heard when we were kids, and so now we had to create that. So we have language immersion programming. We need to get back into like a regular, ongoing programming happening. Like there's just like the dictionary, the apps, conversation circles, all the different things that you have are all like tools, I guess, that need to happen together for someone to learn the language now.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to say, so you can either do those, what do they call them, master apprentice kind of things. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Where you would be like a learner and you would find an elder or a fluent speaker and you'd have an agreement, I guess, that they would speak to you in the language and you'd spend time with them and speak. So they'd be like the master, you'd be like the learner. So that's a term I think that people use. So it's really, I think, being dedicated to really, it's going to take a lot of commitment
Mm-hmm.
for people to really learn. But there's a lot of tools now that we've developed that will help.
You mentioned the conversation circle. Is that something that you guys do right now?
We're trying to do these things, but we're not doing enough of it, like to
Yeah.
have them happen regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to do that not just only like face to face, but we need to be able to do that virtually. There's people still are waiting for us to have our virtual things happening because we have a lot of members that are living away from here that are want to learn and so they're really waiting to. And it's just kind of challenging. Like I find it challenging because I'm not like up on a lot of things of how to use things. I kind of scared to just go by myself and do a virtual classroom.
Yeah.
What if something happens, I lose people or whatever.
Yeah.
So the staff that I have now are young and they know how to do things. So it's really and so I need them to be there, right?
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing a post about Moose Cree doing an immersion camp at one point. Is that something you guys still do or plan to do?
We do those once in a while. Like we'd like to do more of them, but it was because we do have them at our cultural camp. We have a camp at Sapit Island, which is the next island from here,
Mm-hmm.
from beside this factory here. So we have a little camp there. It's like it's just tent frames and stuff like that. We have that mostly that we've for doing our ceremonies. We've used it to do language immersion, and it's popular with the schools because the kids like to come there. So we bring in different grades into there, but it's not easy to do, like because it's a lot of work to have to take all your supplies in and that kind of thing. So we're starting to think more about doing our language immersive stuff right in Moose Factory, either at the Cree Cultural Interpretive Center at that Shabatuan or in other areas because I think schools are starting to get more like those Shabatuans too.
Mm-hmm.
So we could just have that setting, like rather than have to go by boat to some place or by skidoo.
Yeah.
It's just a little challenging to do that sometimes.
And this online platform that's going to launch on March 4, is there a name for it?
I think it's just going to be let learn Moose Cree,
Oh, okay.
but it's under this. Our partner is called Language Foundry,
Oh, okay.
and so those are the ones that are developing or doing the work on the app itself. So with that one, it'll be on their website. So they've done I think Mi'kmaq and definitely they've done Anishinaabe.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that on their sites where they have done this kind of language platform, and then there's one that'll just be Moose Cree.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so that's where we're part of that, but ours is going to be uniquely Moose Cree because I think I keep changing it to make it more culturally relevant for us. Like so, making the decision like to the vocabulary that we use for the vocabulary that's going to be in those modules is related to like the land, to the water, to camping, to hunting, all those kinds of things. So that when people are making sentences and learning how to make a sentence or how to use verbs, it's all related. They're all related to that vocabulary that's really relevant to our culture to today. Are you interested in testing it out? Did you want to be registering on that?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Is it when it launches? Is it going to be available to anyone?
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. What we're doing is I'm just inviting people like by email or on Messenger for now, like, and then we have it. I'm going to put it up on our Facebook
Hmm.
page on our website, Moose Crease,
Yeah.
to say like who wants to take part in this. They'll have to register. They'll have to send me their email. And what'll
Yeah.
happen is that you send me your email on March the 4th. You will get an email inviting you to register, and it'll come from Language Foundry,
Hmm.
which will because they'll be the ones to do that process to get people in onto the platform.
Yeah.
So they're just sparing me that because remember I told you that I'm not that great doing all those technical stuff. They're gonna take
Yeah.
care of that. I just
Oh,
manage
okay.
stuff. I don't do that actual stuff. No. Anyway, so that's who will contact you. I look at your email. I'll give them
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
email address. Do you want me to
Okay.
do that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
then you
please.
can take part in it, and you can see, and you can see what we're doing. And it's a beta platform right now, so we are inviting feedback to from the learners, which will help us develop it or make improvements.
Hmm.
So what will happen in this one here is that um, it'll have the it'll have 60 modules. So the first ones are syllabics that are going to teach you how to do syllabics. Then we're going to start doing some grammar, and there'll be some reviews. It will take you to 60 modules, and there'll be audio files in there, so you'll be able to hear it. And there'll
Oh,
be an online, on-screen keyboard on there, so you'll be able to have a key on the screen keyboard.
like the Slavics?
Yeah. And in the meantime, there's work being done on the avatar. There's an avatar that's going to be interactive, like flashcards. I haven't seen how that actually works, but it's based on Norm Wesley.
Hmm.
Well, Norm Wesley is one of our speakers that are helping us out here. So he's working with that language foundry, like where he's reading all the reading Cree, I guess the syllabics,
Yeah.
and and so the computer or AI is listening to him and learning how to speak Cree.
Hmm.
So it's AI learning how to speak Cree, and then
Okay.
there's an avatar that's being developed and based on Norm. So I've actually seen it, and Norm, it looks like Norm Wesley, the avatar, and it spoke, and it sounded like Norm. So that's an exciting part of development that's happening, and Norm is working with that part of it with them. So that feature's not ready, or it won't be ready probably till sometime in the fall. We're hoping by the fall. So
Okay.
once we have those features, then they'll be incorporated into the whole platform.
Okay, right on. And for the Moose Cree Dictionary, so this is free and available for all of your members, right?
Yeah, all our things that we've done are free to our members. The only thing is I just asked them if they're from out of town to pay for the shipping.
Oh, okay.
I weighed this thing, it was like 4.4 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, it is pretty. Yeah, it's
And
pretty
I
hefty.
spent a lot of money already getting it from it was printed in Manitoba. So getting all those dictionaries to different places and shipping, I don't remember how much it was. It was very expensive.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So now if I have to mail things out, it's going to cost. So I asked people just to pay for that. But yeah, we have our dictionary. We have some books that we still have left that we've done. We
Hmm.
have a Moose Cree storybook.
Hmm.
It's all in syllabics. It's all from stories from Moose Cree from long ago, I guess in 1800s. I think some of the stories come from. Some of them are a little bit later on. Uh, so there's a storybook. It's all in syllabics. So it'll be really good once you learn how to read syllabics, right? We'll be able to read that book.
Yeah.
And we have 4 Robert Munch books that we have in Moose Cree. So that's Makeup Mess and Thomas's Snowsuit and Show and Tell and Pigs. So we have those books. And we have 2 that we work with the Ininu Friendship Center in Cochrane. One is I Saw a Skunk, and there's another one I think it has to do with toad. So yeah, and then we did a grammar, like a use a version, I guess, of grammar as well. So those are some of the books that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have those available.
Well, that's it for my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we go?
It's always nice to run into someone that really values our language, like because it's like I think we all probably know how we should all be worrying really actually. This morning I was saying that we need to have we really should have a bunch of people just running around trying to do what we can to save the language. That's how important it is right now. We're working against time and to do what we need to do. And you know what? The other thing I should mention is I was always trying to find out like how do we do this? How do we save the language? So, check it out. I went to a couple conferences hoping that I would get the answer. They would tell me like this is how you do it. And most of the people at these conferences that go there are also trying to find answers because they all have the same concern. How do we save our language? There are communities, like say in Southern Ontario and other places, where there are no speakers at all anymore. They have none. And they're trying to figure out how do we get the language back. And Moose Cree is at risk because it's a unique dialect, L-dialect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so important for me, the work that I do, to try and save it.
So that was my conversation with Geraldine. No, I didn't know much about her before I reached out for this interview. I had read the name at some point. When I saw her on the video screen, I recognized her. I'd seen her here and there at gatherings during my time as a reporter with Wawate. And it was nice to put a face to the name. And then to hear her story, especially to see how she was so integral with bringing some of the cultural traditions back to the community. It was pretty amazing to hear. And I had no idea. And you can sense this humility with her. Like she downplays some of her role, especially in developing the dictionary, saying that, I'm just a, project manager and make sure there's funding and pieces come together. But, this whole dictionary would not exist without her. She has received some recognition for her work that we didn't talk about, but she received the Lieutenant Governor's Ontario Heritage Award in 2018. So kudos to her. Shikashko, as my mom would say, which means like you're doing a good job. Shikashkohan. Kashko. When I started this podcast and learning journey, I only planned to do 12 episodes. And that's just based on funding and also the specific learning goal, which is to understand my Mushum stories that he tells in these recordings from the 1980s. So since it's supposed to be the 12 episodes, with this being episode 6, we're at the halfway mark. In terms of where I'm at with my learning, not where I had hoped and expected to be honest. I'm not really comfortable with trying to have a conversation with a fluent speaker at this point, or even to kind of speak so much in front of them. I haven't learned a whole lot of vocabulary that I was hoping for. But, that's just my journey, and I've definitely learned a lot from considering from where I started. So I've definitely made some progress. So there's that, and finding more tools and resources along the way has been pretty great. If I didn't start this whole project, I definitely would be at the same place where I was 6 episodes ago. And I definitely feel like I made progress, just not where I initially expected. So that's just what it is. And we'll see how it goes in the next 6 episodes. So at this time, there's no plans to go beyond the 12 episodes unless there's like a demand or we get some more funding. I don't know. Right now, I'm just aiming to do the 12 episodes that I had proposed at the start. So with that, like, it would be great to get your feedback. If you can tell us how we're doing, if you have any ideas for segments, on what we can feature in future episodes, if there's any possible interview guests that we can have. I mean, by all means, I definitely feel like this project is still evolving. Like, I feel like we've been slowly adding these things, and I feel like it's getting better and better in terms of the production and all of that. But it would be great if we can hear from you. So tell us how we're doing and share some ideas. You could send us a message on our website and the contact form at apashishpodcast.ca. You can email us at apashish@gmail.com, or you can send us a message on our social media accounts or comment on some of our posts that we'll have coming out. But yeah, we'd definitely like to hear from you on what you'd like to hear in the coming episodes. I want to give a few shout outs because this podcast would not be without them. First of all, the Indigenous Screen Office for supporting this project through their podcast program. Through their support, we're able to have the podcast hosting platform. We got funding for the website and logo design, some of the labor costs associated with producing these, and honorariums for our guests. So I definitely appreciate them, and also some equipment that I was able to purchase. Also want to give a shout out to Tyler Anchikanab. He's my old film school buddy who started to help with the editing since episode 3. And he'll be helping with promoting the podcast on our social media platforms as well. So prior to bringing him on, I was doing everything by myself. And it's a whole lot of work to, produce, host, and edit and do the social media and everything just as a single person. And so I realized I needed help. So I reached out to him, and I definitely appreciate him taking the time and using his skill sets. And he's helped me develop some of the ideas for segments and how we can improve the production flow, and also segments and what we can feature in some of the episodes, and also on social media. So, Shemigwich Tyler, Gus's, we have this ongoing joke after a student film where we acted in. I played his father, and he was my son. So since then, he calls me Faja or father, and I sometimes I'll call him son. So it's it's just this inside joke that we have. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to Connie Walker. She's a Cree journalist from Okanese First Nation out in Saskatchewan, and I met her when she was working with CBC and I was working with Journalists for Human Rights. And she had started working on a podcast crime documentary series about missing and murdered Indigenous women. Eventually, she won a Pulitzer Prize and a Peabody Award for her series called Surviving St. Michael's, which is about her late father's residential school experience. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Connie and the work that she's been doing. And she was the first person I told about this podcast idea 2 summers ago. And of course, she loved the idea and the concept. And she was the one that actually referred me to the Indigenous Screen Office funding. And she supported my application, wrote this great letter, and she listened to my first episode and provided valuable feedback, and in general provided moral support along the way when I needed it, because this can be, a lonely endeavor at times, and she was there, and we chatted a few times. about this experience and providing feedback. So Shmigwech Kanye, I really appreciate everything. So my plan for the coming weeks is to I'll re-juggle the flashcard system and try to incorporate more sentences and phrases. I'm going to learn some of the verb conjugation rules and grammatical rules and how to say some sentences. And the Moose Cree Dictionary will definitely be a great help with that. So that's it for this episode. So what did you think of Geraldine's story? Have you used dictionaries and how have they worked for you? And don't forget to send us feedback or ideas for future episodes. You can send us a message on the website apashishpodcast.ca or email us at apashish@gmail.com and comment on our socials and send us a message. And don't forget to sign up for our Substack, where you can receive podcast updates directly to your email inbox and leave a review on our various platforms and the website. So that's it for this episode. Shmigwech for listening. Apashish, a Cree learning podcast, is produced and hosted by Lenny Carpenter. Additional editing by Tyler Anjikaneb. Logo design by Robin Kyoki. Goose Call provided by my niece, Harlow Carpenter. Music by Lenny Carpenter. Have any questions, feedback, or resources to share? Submit a message on our website, apashishpodcast.ca, or email us at apashish@gmail.com. Visit our website to listen to past episodes, view guest bios, and access Cree learning resources. Apashish is supported by the Indigenous Screen Office. Greater Yellow Lake recording by Thomas McGarrian. Sharp-tailed grouse recording by Andrew Spencer. These and other wildlife recordings are accessible at www.zeno-canto.org. Miigwech for listening.